The minutes were mailed out to everybody with the meeting announcement. I need a motion to approve the minutes and then a second motion. Oh, okay, great. So you could. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So there is a correction to the agenda that I sent out. I do apologize. The agenda I emailed had the date for the REMSCO, not the next REMAC meeting. So the next REMAC is April 5th. That's just a simple correction. The REMSCO is March 1st. With regards to following the agenda, I'm just going to quickly cruise down. To be read into the minutes in the New York State Compliance Bureau notification, we have a bunch. Let's see, EMT Joseph Dunn from Rocky Point, New York, violating part 800.15 A2 and 800.3 AM. Is assessed a civil penalty of $1,000. He was suspended for 1 year, effective 1/23/23. His suspension was stayed for pending no further violations for 3 years, and that he had to successfully complete a paramedic re-education course at the direction of his agency medical director. Terry Parker Jr. from White Plains, New York, was surrendered effectively 1/10/23 for violating part 800.3 AK. Timothy Rogers from Staten Island was suspended for 1 year, effective 12/5/22. Suspension was stayed. He must complete a full refresher within 1 year of the suspension date, and he was assessed a civil penalty of $4,000 for violation of part 800.16A 1, 2, 3, and 9. Busy guy. John Kirk from Ramsey, New Jersey, was suspended for 1 year, effective 12/5/22. Suspension was stayed. Must take a full refresher course within 1 year of 12/5/22. Assessed a civil penalty of $2,000 for violation of part 800.16A 1, 2, and 3. Michael Sudol from Maspeth, New York. His EMT card was revoked December 21st, 2022, and he was assessed a civil penalty of $10,000 for violations of 800.3 AP, 800.3 AP2, AP3, 800.15 B, and 800.164. Wow. A lot of dinero. Our incoming email also included a request from Dr. Evan Feinberg from NYU Winthrop for a seat on the REMAC. We've made aware that all the seats are full. We have only room for 20 voting members. So he was notified of that, and then I sent out a letter to him saying that he could be made as a non-voting member. If that's okay with you guys. And that Dr. Feinberg also requested a formal letter from the REMAC with the official start date of the eBridge program. And so that was sent out to him with the addended date based on the motion that was made at the last meeting, with a hard start date of July 1st, 2023. I received email notifications from Long Beach regarding controlled substance issues, which have subsequently been resolved, and no further action is needed. An outgoing letter was sent to Dr. Newberg regarding the issues. There was a complaint regarding response time of EMS units to a complainant's home. The complainant sent the issue to the state, which sent it back to the region, and that was forwarded to our quality committee for review as well. So reports for the chairman's report. We had another regional meeting this time. Instead of with the hospitals and health system, this was with agency managers and agency directors. It went very well. Of course, I have to say it went well, right? It was a great presentation by the General Devices people. They provided opportunity for questions and answers, and there were a lot to be had by the providers. Of course, I was very proud of myself when one of them asked me, how much does it cost us? And I was able to say nothing for you, after the hospital picking up the bill. So eBridge is moving along quickly. Please begin to position your agency, use, make sure that you're using the questionnaire that the EMS coordinator that Don puts out, because we need to make sure we have an accurate number of providers in your agency, so we know how many user IDs we need to give up or give out to your agency. We're going to start with a list of credentialed agency providers, and then we'll move on from there. We've also asked at that meeting a couple of agencies to volunteer or step up to be test agencies for the eBridge program as it starts to move in, because as we start using it more and more, it's going to become our primary communication tool. We need to test it and help it sort of develop into what we need. It's sort of like Play-Doh right now. We're going to keep molding it. The credentials committee, I'm skipping to that report real quick. I want to thank everybody for completing all the forms. Don, again, did some great work, put out a public tracking sheet online of the Google Docs or Google Sheet. And he sent me a great email today saying, but this is the first time in all the years that we've been doing this, about 6 or 7 years since we started that requirement, that every agency has been compliant before the 31st. So there have been no suspensions, there's been no downgrades. Everybody's been compliant with all the REMAC and REMSCO documentation. And thank you. I'm shocked. So yeah, I was gearing up to starting to bring that under new business to have to start downgrading agencies and replace medical directors. So hospital diversions and EMS wall time. That's something that was a discussion at the ED committee leadership meeting. It was a discussion at the EMS leadership meeting. It was a discussion at the CMAC and REMSCO. Just to reiterate here, if you weren't at those meetings, we are well under the nationwide benchmark for wall time. It's usually a couple of hours. In Nassau County, we're at 30 minutes. That's our average. There is an effort to continuously improve our wall time as hospitals sort of figure things out. We get more staffing or upstaff or open more floors, but it's a combination of a whole bunch of things, but it's not an EMS thing. Right, we can't control what the hospital's doing on the after the ER. It's usually not an ER thing either. It's an outside the ER because they have no floors of beds available because of staffing of nurses. Or construction or for whatever reason they're sick calls, and so the throughput doesn't happen. The downside though is that if you can't get the patients into the ER, you can't take that EMS unit to then take the patient that's upstairs out of the hospital because they're tied up waiting to get the patient off the stretcher in the ER. So it creates a sort of a cycle of problems, and everybody's aware of it, and they're all working to fix it. So hospitals are working on it, hospital administrators, and emergency department administrators. So please continue to be patient. It's something that is being looked at. At the state level, somebody had proposed, a carrot and a stick sort of. How do we fix this? One of the things they said was, how can the State Department of Health admonish the hospitals for taking so long? There's nothing that they can do. There's no longer a disaster. They can't say close your ambulatory surgery, because then they would shut the hospital down. They would lose their revenue stream. So we don't want to punish the hospital. We want to help facilitate it. So I've actually had meetings with hospital administrators to get ideas and just brainstorm. Lastly, is that under Chairman's report, Dr. Newberg has been wonderful in helping manage not just the RSI, but other airway stuff, including the BLS IGEL for the region. But he's our go-to guy, and I can't wait to hear his report. There's a lot of great work being done. With regards to CMAC and medical standards, just moving on to committee reports. It was voted on to finally align the New York State BLS protocols and the collaborative BLS protocols. As you know, that there's a discrepancy between the two. So if you're an ALS provider, you're following BLS under the collaboratives. If you're a BLS provider, you're following BLS under the state BLS protocol. And they don't match up. So they're working to put them together and then figure out a system to keep them together. The State Department of Health Bureau VMS says the BLS protocols are ours, but the collaborative protocols are yours, meaning the CMAC and REMSCO, which makes no sense because they're patient care protocol. So that's where there was an issue, and so they're working on that at this jointly. At the CMAC and medical standards, there was a discussion on double sequential defibrillation. They discussed one article and said it was possibly a good thing to consider, but they didn't. It's not a protocol. It's not a policy. It's just something that they put out there for people to think about. Something that was mentioned by the IT people upstate is that PCRs are still getting hung up in the ether of the eBridge. And so please make sure that you go through your ePCR platform and make sure that your ePCR platform has been able to export all the PCRs up to eBridge and for NEMSIS evaluation. The EMS memorial for those heroes that departed last year will be in May 2023 in Albany. They had to add another brick wall, sadly, because there's so many EMS providers that have been killed in the line of duty. The Bureau of EMS Education and Training, they're going to be coming out with new MOLT regulations and training for that, those new MOLT regulations. Or the Bureau of Health is coming out with MOLT regulations, and Ed and Training is going to be coming out with training about it. I mentioned IGEL. So the state is moving away from the CDC 4-box criteria for trauma and moving to the American College of Surgeons trauma criteria, which I encourage everybody to go look at. It's not a policy yet. It's supposed to be adopted by the state, the STAC, and the STAC meeting was canceled because of a snowstorm. I guess we're allowed to drive in the snow, but they can't. If you just if you Google ACS and trauma criteria, it's actually right there, and it also includes the PowerPoints on education and training. It's not the state protocol yet, but it will be once approved. This is what it looks like. This is what we're going to. So if you go Google ACS and PDF, you'll see this. And American College of Surgeons also has training materials on their website. I want everybody here to know about it, be familiar with it, because that's what we're going to, and so it shouldn't be a surprise. AEMT skills, the intubation is formally removed. It's no longer within the scope of practice, and the AEMT skill set is now in alignment with the national scope of practice for the AEMT level of care. So there's no testing on it, either on the written, there's the practical skills, and AEMT is not allowed to intubate anymore. So if you have a tactical program where you use AEMTs as your ALS providers, they can't intubate. So another item that was brought up was specific medical devices used by agencies. The state has specified, and it's under Article 30, Section 3002-2, that the agency and the agency medical director are responsible for selecting what devices are used with the agency, so long as they're FDA approved for use on patients. The state and the region really don't say, we don't approve what devices you use. So that's something. So if your agency wants to use ventilator A instead of ventilator B, that's fine. The New York City Fire Department protocols were approved, including petrocane for eye injury. It was pointed out that this is a quality issue that was brought up at the state. This is important for everybody. The link-based tapes that we use for estimation of weight and age, or Broslow, is a brand name. There was a medication error, but it wasn't there was no harm or foul, because the paramedic provider used the Broslow tape and then used the drug dose calculation on the tape to administer the medication to the child. The dose was wrong because the tape was 5 years old and it wasn't in compliance with the state regional protocol. So please remind your providers, use the tapes only for calculation of weight. Go back your protocols and then enter the weight into the weight protocol and use the proper weight-based dosing for these patients. Unless you have a current tape that has the current protocols on it, that's what you need to do. So there's the hunt for the New York State EMS medical director is still ongoing. That's it. They're defining the job and coming up with a budget line. There was a huge discussion and deliberation about wall times held not only at the CMAC, but at the REMSCO. The REMSCO chairman, Mark Philippi, is meeting with the New York State, a New York State Hospital Committee. Basically, its formal name is called the Public Health and Planning Council. What it really is all the leaders from all the health systems and hospitals in the state sit on this committee. And he's discussing with them. He had 5 minutes to come up with talking points to explain to them what's going on with regards to wall time. So I sat in on a meeting with that and we gave some talking points. Lastly, from this New York State, the New York State EMS quality manual, the one that was put out by Bob Belagi 15-20 years ago, is being revised and updated. It's going to be presented at the CMAC for approval to be distributed and put into use in a week or two at the next CMAC meeting. So please keep your eyes open for that. You're going to do you're going to need to change your quality and your QA/QI stuff based on that. And that's all I had for the CMAC. Does anybody have any questions for the CMAC or the chair? No. Okay, I noticed a lot of people came in late. Please make sure you sign in. And then QA/QI, Dr. Zazzo.
Yeah, there's just one mentioned in the incoming mail. We have a civilian complaint that's being reviewed. And it seems to be, at least on the first part, the open patient exception issue. The delaying time as opposed to a real issue. So we're doing a deep dive on that now. And by the next meeting, we'll have that information back. Other than that, there wasn't much else. Questions?
Okay. Dr. Newberg for RSI and IGEL.
All right, so we had the RSI committee meeting yesterday. We are moving forward at a really good pace right now, and we're very happy with where we are. So basically, we finalized the policies and procedures from our end, and I have sent that over to the policy committee that's gone to Dr. Dishner and Dr. Vermonti. So the policy committee will be reviewing that before the next April meeting. In the meantime, we're going to start taking applications for agencies that are interested in doing RSI. So any agency that's interested should reach out to me directly. And then I'm working with Scott DePino to get the paperwork filed. So then we'll have all that paperwork sent out to that agency and then have it put back through us to make sure that we have a single point of contact. We can keep track of all that. The idea is the policies and procedures will be getting reviewed before the next for approval of the next REMAC in April. We'll have the agencies that want to get on board getting the applications before next April, so that way we can put that forward as a package then. Once we have the approvals on that, then it's just a matter of getting the training done, making sure everyone gets a difficult airways class, making sure we identify the providers and getting them credentialed. So we're hoping then that would be the next meeting, that'd be by May, June. So probably by the June meeting, we're hoping that we could basically have this up full and running, hopefully by the middle of the summer. So that should be really good. A couple discussion points that we came up that brought up on us in the policies and procedures for RSI. It does require that if an agency is participating in RSI, that they will mutual aid to a neighboring agency if requested. That is a little bit of a sticking point for some agencies, I guess, because they're either uncomfortable or don't feel that they should have to mutual aid. There are two sides of that coin and reasonable discussions on both sides. But as a committee, we decided that if we're going to do this, we're going to follow the Suffolk County model. We want to make sure that if we're doing this, that RSI is available to everyone in the county and that it's equitable among all agencies. So basically, if we allow agencies to opt out, then that could cause basically a care vacuum in a certain part of the county. And we really don't want that to be, especially since we're working on all these other counties and we're working on all these other committees with the REMSCO and trying to improve county response and do everything as a system. We don't want to go into something that we're sponsoring and then allow an opt-out system. If moving forward, we decide or we find out that that does cause some undue hardships or whatever, we can always look at that in the future to see if we want to try to allow for exceptions to that, but we don't want to start the program with the exceptions in place. That's something we'll look into later if we find that it's restricting us in some way. So we acknowledge it, but moving forward, any agency that wants to do it has to sign on to all the policies and procedures, including mutual aid. There were a couple agencies that asked if we could come out and talk to them. The 6th Battalion specifically had a number of agencies that seemed interested but had questions. So we talked about doing a kind of an outreach so we could go and talk to the fire departments and explain why this is the policy we're having and get their thoughts on this. So that way, hopefully that also will get knowledge and a good discussion going and maybe get more agencies involved. So we're going to have a little bit of an outreach, probably starting in the 6th Battalion because that's they asked, but we would like that to eventually be countywide. So that we're not going to isolate that to 6th Battalion, but since they asked and there were a number of agencies from our committee that are in that battalion, we thought that's just a good place to start because they were asking, and then we'll expand it to the rest of the county and get anything out there that they're looking for to make sure that that people talk about it. Then after that, basically, we talked a little bit about the training. We want to make sure that no matter how we're doing the training, that all the components are the same. So we, it's probably going to be some, there'll be options to go out to Suffolk County. There'll be options to go through Northwell. There'll be options to probably go through the Fire Police Academy. There may be some options, some other options in addition to training. So we just want to make sure, regardless of where the training's occurring, that it's all happening, that everyone's doing the same sheet of music with that. So we're just going to make sure that there's a document as such to make sure that the training is coordinated. And then, like I said, the plan would be anyone who's interested, get that to us, policies and procedures committee approving it hopefully at the next meeting. And then in April, we'll present all that and then give 2 more months for training. And then if everything's up and running and we get all the kinks out, then hopefully RSI will be up and running by after we approve it at the June. It'll be June, right, Dave? I'm right.
Well, that's what you mentioned. So hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So that's the timeline. So, and we think this is very good. We're pushing it forward. Everyone's been a really good discussion. It's been, and we appreciate the input from everyone. So that's where we are with RSI. Any questions on any of that? All right. So that's RSI. For the iGel, I guess we have to have a motion made to approve this because it has to be approved for us before I can send it to Hudson Valley. Is that right? Do you want to do that under new business?
Yeah.
It seemed under, if I looked at their thing, what I understood from them is that we had to approve it at our REMAC first, and then we send it to their REMAC after we approve the agency that are doing it.
That's fine.
Okay.
You could just bring it up.
So I'll bring that up under new business. So we have to do the agencies under new business, but for the iGel program, we're coordinating that with Hudson Valley. It is now live as of the other day. Don sent me all of the paperwork from there, so we have all the paperwork. So right now we have 6 agencies or 7. So there was another one added today. Belmore Fire Department, Belmore Merrick EMS, Baldwin Fire Department, Town of Hempstead EMS, Manhasset Lakeville Fire Department, Rockville Center Fire Department. Yeah, I didn't get Freeport yet. Okay, but Freeport's interested. I just don't have the application yet. Is there anyone I'm missing?
So I got, if I may, I
Yeah.
have Rockville Center.
Yep.
Baldwin, Wanto Levittown.
I want to let them. That was what I was getting. My own agency. Great.
Belmore,
Middle-aged stuff.
Manhasset Lakeville, Belmore Merrick, Town of Hempstead.
Yeah, and then I know that Freeport Fire Department was interested. I know that South Hempstead Fire Department's interested. I just don't have applications yet. So I guess maybe we'll add that in if they get.
Applications that we have.
Yeah, correct. But if it's okay, and I think Oyster Bay also emailed me. If I remember correctly, right, Don? You got one from Oyster Bay too? With interest?
Off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah, I think that was the other one. So that's it. So I guess we'll do that in new business. But so anyone that's interested now, please continue just to send everything through me. So I'm the point of contact. We all agreed that made the most sense since I'm the airway guru at the moment. And so and then what we'll do is once we have it approved through me, then I'll forward it up. We can't do anything until Hudson Valley and the state approves it. So basically we approve it, we send it to Hudson Valley, they approve it, they send it to the state, we get the approval back, and then there's a policies and procedures thing that we have to follow that we'll push out to everyone, make sure they do the proper training. And then we can get up and running with that. So it is up and running. So I assume once this gets approved, probably our own agencies will be probably up and running. We asked for March 1st as a start date in Nassau County. That gave time to get the applications in and then get the training in. And so obviously that's roughly the date we're looking for. And for anyone that's interested, it's BLS iGel for EMTs in cardiac arrest. So the idea is that EMTs get first to a cardiac arrest. That is the airway that they use, and then they request ALS. If ALS gets there, then ALS will assess that they need to change the airway. If ALS is unavailable, then they would transport with that airway to the hospital. That's the limited use. It's only the eye gel. It's only in cardiac arrest for now. And the idea is that it shows the efficacy. I think the eventual plan would be whatever they do. It's a 2-year pilot. So I'm assuming within, whatever time they end that, the idea is adding that to BLS scope of practice, but it wouldn't be
We have to
obviously.
present it to the state.
Right, obviously that would be down the line. That's the
NIST would have to change the scope of practice nationally.
right. So there's still a couple steps there, but at least that's the thought process behind it. But that's what the pilot's for.
Are they using end title with that?
Yes, they are. Yep. So yeah, that's part of it. So any agency that's using an end title is part of it. Yeah, there's a I didn't go through actually every step of like the thing, but yeah, between the training and the part of it is that yes, it has to be attached to end title.
Yeah, and it's the regional policy, any advanced airway.
Yeah.
ELS or ALS.
So we'll bring that up on a new business for the agencies that are involved, and we can still enroll additional agencies after that. So even after today, if any other agencies are interested, just have them reach out to me and I'll help facilitate that.
Just one out of curiosity, I'm recognizing and make crossover 2 different protocols, but are agencies that are participating switching over to continuous uninterrupted CPR the way they would with the endotracheal tube compared to Caribbean to?
I don't know if they address that in their pilot, but it would make sense that once you have an airway, you are supposed to switch over.
Right, we may want to clarify that.
Okay, I'll look at that.
It is just a supraglottic, it's not
Yeah.
an endotracheal tube.
So I don't think that's, there's probably a pointed discussion, right?
Yeah, because I mean, if you have a
It-
king.
It is considered an advanced airway. And
Okay, I'll look into it. I'll ask. I'll find out. No problem. I'll look into that. No problem. Good question. Any other questions on iJohn? All right, cool. Thank you guys.
All right, protocol, Dr. Rowe.
Yes, we met just before this meeting, and we have 2 issues on our agenda. The first was weight-based versus non-weight-based, levothyroxine norepinephrine. We had a bit of a discussion about that, and since we felt that there's no clear advantage from what we can find in the literature, and that non-weight-based is much easier for our providers, we should recommend the state and go with non-weight-based administration for the moment. And the second one was tetracaine. The use of tetracaine for minor eye injuries. There's been a few articles recently of people sent home to the emergency department with tetracaine with no adverse events. This is one caveat we wanted to make clear: there wasn't used for anybody who might have a globe injury. Because obviously, want the pressure on the globe goes in the eye. But other than that, we felt that would be safe, and we also recommend that for collaborative protocols. And that was makes our conclusion.
Any questions for Dr. Ryan? Suggestions, comments? I'm going to bring those recommendations back up to the collaborative protocol. It's actually just med standards. So they don't just, but it's same, different name too. All right, so that was protocols, credentials. We did the work. Thanks, Don, for making that website public and the public shaming work. So moving on to policy.
So after the last REMAC meeting, it was codified in the e-bridge policy for July 1st hard start date for the county. So hopefully we'll also be moving in that direction to have the equipment installed and ready. And then the only other item for policy I received moments before this meeting started from Dr. Newberg, as he mentioned. So we'll be scheduling a discussion regarding the policy surrounding RSI.
Thank you.
Great. So our tech, Ann Glazer said she's getting her trauma survey by ACS, and she wanted me to tell everybody that about the new CDC field triage criteria that NYU Long Island is having their re-verification visit this month, and then South Nassau is having their trauma re-verification in March. Anything you want me to pass back along to Anne Marie Glazer?
Anything on the pediatric trauma certification for any hospital in Nassau County?
Nobody's applied. I mean, it's a big ordeal. The LIJs are pediatric trauma center.
Yeah, you just got Queens and stuff.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, so not just that,
Right.
they just got recredited, which is great.
Good.
So is it a 2-year, 3-year? Yeah, oh, that's great. Really. Yeah. So the communications tag, Dr. Joshua Kugler is excused from the meeting due to work obligations. Again, the hard start date for E-Bridge for the health systems was July 1st, and there's a gradual roll into the process from the EMS side. By agencies that are volunteering to step in. let's see. Nassau EMS modernization tag, Dr. Newbert.
Still on hold pending the other committee, right, Chuck, nothing new.
No scheduled meeting of the county committee at this time. We'll bring it back. We're notified.
Okay. Right, and Chairman Mackey for REMSCO, any report?
Thank you, Dr. As everybody might be aware from the council's perspective, we are holding a special meeting on Thursday, February 9th at 1500 hours at the Fire Police Academy to discuss the program agency. Letters were sent out to various agencies within the county, Department of Health, as well as the Nassau County Police Department and the Nassau County Fire Commission Fire Marshal's Office. We've gotten feedback from all three. The discussion will entail once again formally, or hopefully going with one of those agencies. We're under a time limit at the present time. The current contract of the program agencies, which was renewed, will run until June 30th of 2024. But we've had some positive feedback from all three agencies. We've pretty much accomplished all of the necessary paperwork and financial data over the past 8 months. We've gone through a number of groups, had a number of meetings. Once again, Dawn has been meeting also with the people upstate to finalize and put a tremendous amount of work in getting that stuff up to them. So at the present time, we are receiving from last year's billing. We did get a response back and a deposit from New York State for last year's expenditures. And we hope to have within the next couple of months a program agency in place to handle the day-to-day operations with that in exchange for, once again, the grant opportunity that the state has provided, as long as it's approved by New York State. So hopefully it will have a large discussion and be able to vote on that. As I said, the hard date as it appears right now is March 1st. We have to have a decision. So if anybody's on the committee and stuff on the council, please attend the meeting next Thursday. Once again, thank you once again to all the agencies. We're getting all their paperwork in a timely fashion. Once again, it certainly is helpful for us to be able to collect the data and make sure that we have the appropriate information on the council level. And that's pretty much it. What we'll do with the as I think about it, once again, with the E-Bridge program, we do have all the ALS providers in our system. But in order for the BLS providers to be able to access that, we'll try and get the agencies to send us a roster of their BLS providers as well. So as we roll this out, whether it be the pilot with a certain number of agencies, and then on, we need to have a definitive number in order to be able to get those logins out effectively. Same thing goes for, once again, scheduled the providers, credentialed. Please, agencies, check your rosters, make sure you don't have any duplications, as we do pay for every ALS provider that's on that. And it does cost money to the council to be able to take care of that with the website. Other than that, that's all I have. Is there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, EMS coordinator, Don Hudson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year. So I'll change hats a bunch of times, so forgive me, but we'll go to the regional stuff. So Saturday night, in conjunction with REMSCO and REMAC, we held countywide agency leadership call. That was really the first true public unveiling of E-Bridge and all of its capabilities given by General Devices. So feedback was overall, I mean, tremendously supportive and positive about what's even possible, let alone literally at our fingertips. So that's good news. People are energized about it. Dovetailing off of that to the annual REMSCO REMAX survey. So we tailored, again, with REMAX and REMSCO involvement, some questions specific to the ongoing project. So one of the questions was, how are you dispatched? So 40.9% of our agencies are self-dispatched, 43.2% are dispatched by Firecom, and 15.9% of them are dispatched by other agencies. So that is, and again, we'll publish all of this data once it's been cleaned up and presented graphically. But that's what the raw data from that survey of 89 agencies that have operating certificates for the region of Nassau says. That's important as the county moves towards crew force and the collaborative effort of our multitude of different dispatch centers towards GPS dispatching of ambulances and the like. That will help bridge those gaps that have always been there within our region of these somewhat independent and non-collaborative dispatch centers, including our own Firecom and Police Communications Bureau. So that's a move in the right direction there. And hopefully the culmination of a lot of dreams and hopes over the years. Along with that, one of the questions was, does your agency utilize some form of mobile data terminal, MDT, KDT, or other? So 60.2% of our agencies currently do, 39.8% don't. Obviously, we'll get to those that need that as we roll out and phase in our different communications platforms and the like over the next future. The time frame is open. Tomorrow's coming. We'll be ready and continue to move forward. Does your agency use GPS for unit location? 62.5% of our agencies already do, 37.5% don't. So shouldn't be a huge lift there, whether it be the GPS functionality for hospital notifications and arrivals commensurate with eBridge, or the GPS unit location for crew force that is pending. Does your EMS PCR laptop or tablet have a camera for video capability? 79.5% do, 20.5% don't. That again sort of parlays off of the pseudo telemedicine capability inherent in eBridge. So future expansion that we're seemingly ready for right there. Good news, 90.9% of our agencies have glucometers, so higher than I anticipated, being that it's not absolutely required. We have a number of BLS agencies that function in Nassau County, so that's good for stroke and for all the other projects that we continue to talk about. And then interestingly enough, does your agency have any paid EMS providers? So we're literally at 50-50. So when we start talking about, we're mostly volunteer and everything, as more and more departments out of necessity and just evolution become combo departments or the like, that's being reflected in what we're seeing out there. And then lastly, for the state stuff, so next week is state meetings. Dr. Kugler and I will be out of town. Those are webcasts on Wednesday, so if you have some downtime in your life that you want to watch, Dr. Kugler and I embarrass ourselves, so that's by all means don't join in. And then to what Dr. Kugler was talking about, the REMSCO and CMAC, along with the Bureau of EMS, are going to be, I guess the word testifying, for lack of a better description, at that public health meeting, which again is live streamed in accordance with New York State public meeting law. That is on February 9th. So all about hospital turnaround times, as everyone on both sides of the doors in the ER acknowledge it's not an out-of-hospital problem, it's not an in-hospital problem, it's not an ER problem, it's everyone's problem. So much more to come on those discussions, as they're just now learning about these partnerships that will definitely help us in the future. So that's what I have. Thank you, and happy to help, I hope.
Thank you. Any questions? Moving along. Anybody from the fire marshal's office besides you, Tom? Okay. So then moving on to old business, we have the BLSI gel, program that, we need to approve. And it's, what are the agencies again? So it's Rockville Center,
And hold on. Right here.
Baldwin.
Okay, it's Baldwin Fire Department. Belmore Fire Department. Belmore American EMS. Manhasset Lakeville Fire Department. Rockville Center Fire Department. Town of Hempstead EMS. Wantagh Levittown Volunteer Ambulance. And then. I would like to add in Freeport Fire Department and South Hempstead Fire Department and Oyster Bay Fire Department, because they all reached out and said they were interested. I just didn't get an application yet, so I'm assuming if I get those applications, I'll just process them and send those forward also.
Okay, so you said Freeport, South Hempstead, what was the last one again?
Oyster Bay.
So, we need a motion to approve these agencies to participate in the BLSI gel project.
So moved.
Okay, great. Any abstentions or, no?
Thank you, everybody. If I get any in the interim, I'll hold them off until the next REMAC meeting, since we'll have to process the first batch anyway.
Any other new business for the committee? Old business, I should say, sorry. Is there any new business? Any monkey business? All right, so, just want to review the hospital representation and contacts that we have at the REMAC, just to make sure we're still up to date. Plainview opted for me. Glen Cove, Dr. Sood, who's not a member here, but she's on the review committee. St. Joe's, Dr. Vermonti and Dishner, NYU, Dr. Feinberg, Mercy, Dr. Vermonti, Dishner, Newmick, King, Barrios, and Dr. Ing, South Nassau, Dr. Jay Kugler, North Shore, Dr. Goodral, Cohen's, Dr. Harris, and LIJ, Dr. Davis, who's not a member, LIJ Valley Stream, Dr. Pardo, Good Sam, Dr. Vermonti Dishner, Huntington, Dr. Fuertes, not a member, and St. Francis. I have Dr. Vermonti and Dishner, but I think that, is that still the same?
No.
Who's representing, St. Francis now?
It should be Stefan Muehlbauer.
Well, all right. Thank you. Right. Okay, so is there anything else for the good of the order? Need a motion to adjourn? Okay, Dr. King. Any abstentions or opposition? No? Okay, great. Meeting adjourned. Next meeting will be Wednesday, April 5th. We will let you know when the meeting is, where the meeting is going to be held. We're not sure yet where if we have this room or what room we'll have.